I had a friend who did a ring cycle like adaptation in Hamburg that was done like quasi pro wrestling style, where like they're coming into the ring as the gods. Here's Photon weighing in at 325 pounds. Photon King of the worldwide wonder.
Let's get ready to cycle. So, what? Tell me the story with Latonia and Rob Watson. What's happened here?
Tosca. Well, yeah, Tosca in Washington. I mean, yeah. But it's funny because sometimes, and I always feel this way in life, sometimes you run into people who you haven't worked with often, or you've only worked with just one time and it stays with you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened in this situation. It was so vulnerable, how we were opening up about our art, about our technique, the way we sing, the way we think, the way we think about life and things like that. And so sometimes it's nice when you have a friend, that you find in the business rather than just, the general colleague. Initially, for me, it's always kind of to get to know this person on a personal level so we can have more heat on stage, more of a click. Mm-hmm. But then there was a shift with somebody like Rob, you know what I mean? Sort of just this nature about it, where you have a lot in common and you feel like you've grown up somehow together in a weird way. You didn't know each other, but you do.
We ended up
similarities.
During the show and like just off after the rehearsal and everything, especially also because, we were the second cast and we spent a lot of time watching and then we just talked and it was just one of those easy connections you make with a person. You get them on a similar wavelength.
Do you guys feel like so this happened at a particular production, sort of a moment in Tosca, I guess. And it was Cavaradossi in Tosca, I'm assuming. He wasn't singing Borsa.
Yes, Cavaradossi. Yeah, but it was before it was before I actually heard him sing. Mm-hmm. That's what I found him so interesting. To say the least. I can find a much more colorful word, I'm sure, but interesting, it's the gamut, covers it all.
Interesting. Yes, he's very.
Yeah, but when I find somebody interesting, I open up more, you know what I mean? I give more, in my art, just so as a person, you start to learn about yourself when you find somebody interesting, because if somebody's very boring, then you feel the surface relationship with that person. Mm-hmm. So, you go, okay, cool. Let's do some shots, party, and you go home. And then you don't think about it. You don't think about it. And sometimes you need people like that in your life too,
Yeah.
The ride or dies that are the kind that will be like, all right, I don't feel good. I haven't seen you in 2 months. So we fixing to go get a drink. All right, I'm there. 20 minutes. They're there no matter what to make you forget about the mundane, the day-to-day life.
I'll be in my unicorn onesie. You can't miss me.
Okay, but Rob is not that kind of person. Actually, he can do the unicorn onesie would be okay too, I think. But he's the sort of person that, because he thinks and speaks so freely in a deep way, a lot of the time, you can't help it. You think about it. You can't help but dig in and sort of get your wheels turning in another direction, expanding your mind a bit. It's good to have a colleague like that. Good to have a friend like that. So I latched right on.
My lack of forethought brings out, an actual, forethought, because you have to make up for the two of us.
My lack of forethought. I love that. It's perfect.
Sometimes, yeah.
Do you find, I know when I have these kind of reactions, this kind of relationships with people on the stage, that a lot of the stuff that, a lot of the interactions and the work that you do is unspoken. It's a lot of stuff that you would normally, with another colleague that you aren't as familiar with, you have to sort of figure out what they're, what they feel comfortable with and all this stuff. But when you have that sort of boom connection, there's a lot of stuff that takes place in the ether between your gaze. You sort of look across and you can lock in on eyes, and so much information is traveling between you. Did you notice that sort of phenomenon as you're sort of working through this project, that you're like, I don't have to tell this person much. We just can tell each other with what we're doing on stage.
You know, I'll say this. I mean, I did feel that in this project, and not only in this project. I can think of maybe of the people that I've ever worked with. You know, I mean, I probably have been the most vulnerable with Rob. You know, but there have been just a handful. You know, maybe 3 people total in all these 25 years where I had that with. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It grows, and it keeps going the more you're around each other. I mean, because you're around another person, regardless of what role you're playing with them. If it's something that's a duet sort of role, whether you're, you know, Dorabella and Fiordiligi, you know, Tosca and Cavaradossi, you know, Iago and Otello. There's an exchange that goes on of sorts of. Yeah, like you say, like of an energy exchange, you know, if you will, you know what I mean? You're looking at that person's eyes and you're thinking about what they're thinking. They're taking in your energy and stuff, and it's almost palpable. Mm-hmm. Now, this is why I think it's very important to develop that, is because you want your audience member to feel that shit. You need them to. That's the point. That's why they're there. They are not there to watch somebody stand there and just sing the notes beautifully live, because yes,
so
fantastic. You can do that, but you can also go home and listen to a recording for that. What people want to see when they go to see Romeo and Juliet, any kind of love stories, they need to see heat on stage. That's what they're paying for. I mean, these tickets are big money. They cost a lot. They want live entertainment. They want live emotion. They want to put right there on stage. You know, that's why, I mean, no matter what the capacity, if it's opera, ballet, you know, if you're a jazz musician, if you're a gymnast, you know what I mean? It's out there for the audience for a reason. They want to feel something. They want to be entertained. They want to take themselves away, you know, from all of the bullshits, you know, that are happening all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're there to do that. And in order for you to do that, they need to actually make some sort of human connection. That's why you have humans up here playing stories, you know, bringing these characters to life. They want a human connection, you know, and if you don't want to give that on stage, they can go home and watch it on Netflix. Yeah. They can go home and watch it on great performances, PBS, somewhere else, where somebody actually decided to give. So I feel like you're going to hire somebody, you're going to put somebody up there, they better be a giver, you know? So that's why I was so excited about Rob, you know what I mean? He's a giver. And I do the same thing, sometimes to our detriment, but it's worth it at every second.
No.
Especially when you play roles like Cavaradossi and Tosca, which, I mean, are essentially these lovers at the end of the world for them, you know, trying to, you know, essentially fight against unwinnable odds, you know, against a totalitarian state, and having their love and their connection as artists, you know, persevere through that. And I find, you know, they know each other so well, and it's really, really important to develop those relationships, you know, and especially in the course of production, which can be hard when doing an opera like Tosca, because so often, you know, you have 3 days to, you know, Deutsche, we put in 3 days. And so, you know, it's oftentimes oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Cavaradossi. Okay, let's stage the scene. I'll see you for the show.
Yeah. I'll be the guy making out with you in 5 minutes. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God. Oh, now that's one thing I have never been able to like fully go out and do. I'm trying to think if I've ever been able to jump into a performance and then just smack down with somebody. Because I mean, you know, a lot of my career was as a nine stringer, you know what I mean? Just jumping in for other people. I mean, that's how I made, you know, some major debuts.
Just right.
You trying to kiss me?
I'm just doing the first kiss, the first awkward kiss that you have to do.
Oh my God. I was just like, I was like, man, if he's really trying to kiss me, that's not the way, man. That doesn't. Very effective then. That was very obvious.
Okay. I want to put that on my list. Don't use that move.
So yeah, I mean, like going in straight for the Smackdown, no way. I'm like, let's have some lunch. You know, after we talk a little bit, maybe the Smackdown will be a little easier to do.
Yeah.
Oh, no, definitely. but at the same time, I think it takes a certain to do that on stage. Which I'm thinking about, like the times I jumped in Tosca, and it's like it's a blur because everything goes so fast. You can't really think of things. And I think because of that, I just throw myself into the situation. It's like, look, he's crazy about Tosca. Just play the moment, live in the moment as much as you can, while also being like, I never had orchestra rehearsal on this ever, so I can't keep my eye off of that.
Okay, but I want to say one technical thing about doing that, though. Okay, one good thing about getting to know your colleague, at least for a couple of hours before, is you can smell their breath. you can look at their mouth and see if they got any kind of cold sore situation happening. Open season, you know what I mean?
So it's not so much a lunch; it's an exam.
Ish. Oh man, I hate to say that to my colleagues.
Is that cottage cheese? Okay, good. It's cottage cheese. No problem.
Yes. I mean,
that's why you had tongue depressors in your bag.
Yeah.
So you have to check. Okay.
Could you imagine?
I'm so curious. I'm really into dental work. I just kind of want to see what you got going on. And okay,
just a hobby.
We're ready to do the cheat kiss on this one.
I hate when that just is like kind of thrust upon you because you really want to make a moment happen, and then the other person's just like, no, it's going to be the cheek kiss.
Yeah.
Matter what. And it's just, especially again in these really quick situations, like doing Nabucco, Gaelic has always got to throw a big one on me. And half the time I have to wonder, is she going to grab my hair and just slam her face on the side of my head? Because, we haven't seen each other before the show. It's a weird situation.
But, you guys talked about the Einspringen and jump ins, for the non-German speakers out there. And that's where you if someone's had a cancellation or, oftentimes you have to run into a production that's been rehearsing for 6 weeks. You get 1, 2, 3 rehearsals, maybe. And then you're going and you have to do these really intimate expressions of love and deep feeling on, one or no rehearsals sometimes. And do you think it's sort of endemic in our business because unlike actors, that work in regional theater or regular theater, they do tons of performances. They build these relationships over a long period of time, and they really have that sort of connection sort of built in. They can build that connection while we're there. And for most of us, when we're out there, even when we're rehearsing normally, it's kind of part of our industry that everything has to be done so fast, and you don't really get that chance to build. And for me, that's what makes these kinds of relationships so special. Because when you do get that opportunity, you walk in the room, even the first day of rehearsal, and I know this person, I have this connection, it's already there. We've done 2 weeks of work out of the way. Right off the bat, we're ready to go,
So what were y'all talking about, huh?
Oh, we kind of took a tangent because we lost our partner here.
That's what happens when you put me on anybody's show.
Yeah, you missed you're going to be so heartbroken because you missed all the theory talk.
Oh,
you missed the theory
talk. Well,
I go back and speak out a bit.
I do have some deep love of theory. I was talking the other day about, of course, sadly, my auspicious Lulu debut will not be happening in March for some reason. And so, but I was talking about the genius of Berg and understanding how Lulu works together so well, in the fact that it's about the leitmotifs and you start out with this amazing canon and it really follows motifs. You really strongly hang on those motifs, and it was amazing because then when you have another sort of call and response duet, it's kind of a retrograde of it, and then you have your little aria. This is all for the smaller tenor role, but then you have this giant mimica scene that just starts playing through all of the leitmotifs that you've done, and that really kind of ties you to the ground where your sort of 12-tone early serialism is not going to be tying you down to something so familiar and
right.
And it's just when I really learned that music, it was boom, my mind just exploded. Berg, you are so smart. How does this sound good?
I had the same experience in Wozzeck, man. You remember how rough it was that first 2 weeks?
I know, because I didn't know what your notes were. It just sounded good and awesome to me.
But then all of a sudden, it's that meme where it's like the brain meme, and it's like, you know, kind of dull. I think it explodes at the end. That's exactly how it feels when you work on Baird. It's just like you feel like you're just casting you're a blind person with no hands trying to find a way through a maze, and it's like,
I mean, my job in that
the
one.
Baird I've always appreciated. I mean, the only Baird that I've done was the 7 early songs, and they are just. I mean, this is back when I was, I guess, maybe about 24, 25. You know, and for somebody that had been like a big music theorist since I was like 8 years old, I was just, my mind was blown. I was just like, oh, this is the most beautiful music. It was so different from my ears to hear these kind of progressions, you know, but then again, I understood them. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, he's using an 11 chord in, you know, second inversion. I'm dead. How can you follow it? You know what I mean? But that one.
I wish I had that.
You know what I mean? But just, wow. I mean, absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
See, I have the exact opposite approach whenever I come up against a hard piece of music. I just get angry at it until it gets in my brain. And I get angry at the composer. I've spent so many hours at the keyboard screaming at Tom Chiapullo like, "You son of a bitch! That doesn't make it." And then later I have to apologize. I'm sorry I called you a son of a bitch. That's actually quite beautiful.
Oh God! Well, sometimes you got to crack the code of the language of these composers, and that really does feel like you're going up against a wall. Like it's just, but then it clicks, and you was like, "That's it." And it does. You don't even have to necessarily have like, you know, especially as a singer myself, the intellectual capacity to understand why it clicks necessarily and why you're understanding the system. But it's that sort of, you know, intrinsic understanding, that ear that, you know, was unfortunately in my case not trained until I got to college. I couldn't read a note of music, but I was always able to kind of figure stuff out, and, you know, orally. And yeah, you kind of just, after beating those phrases in so long, you're like, oh, you could start to anticipate what the next one's going to do before you have to kind of play it out. Maybe not obviously perfectly because it's complicated stuff, but you get sort of this, you know, mini, you know, precognition of it, where you know the phrases are going to go, not like the same at the end of a phrase of Mozart or, you know, Cadenza in a Verdi or Donizetti opera, but, you know.
It's funny because, you know, it's funny because Rob, you're sort of similar to me. Is that we came to the music part, like a reading and understanding, late. You know, Latonia came to it early, and Megan is also the same way. My wife, Megan Marino, she has been a musician since she could touch the piano, right? So she started learning music before she learned English. So, you know, that's her. Like whenever she approaches a new piece of music, much more is right there for just the easy stuff to pick up off the ground. And for people who don't have that easy access that where it comes so soon, you have to work on stuff so much harder. You have to go each thing. And I find that sometimes, just talking to her about her process, there are certain parts of the process for me that go in a lot quicker because I have to work so hard on each note to note, each interval, and each, you know, even the language, trying to make sure the language is right. So like I have to work so much smaller to get to a place that people who have been like saturated in this language their whole lives, they're already there from the beginning.
Oh, I know that. I know that your experience of being with someone like that. My fiance Brigitte Bayer, I mean, she was, you know, as soon as she could start to walk was in music. And then of course she's German. She's still fluent in English, French, and Italian. And, you know, it's just like all that stuff is just so natural. I don't even think she really thinks about the process. It's just, das ist Musik, You know, it's just very easy for her. And it's so natural for her. I mean, but in so many ways, Brigitte also is just kind of music embodied in the person in a lot of ways. And I feel like it's just, you know, especially being from Munich and so steeped in culture. I mean, she made her Bayerische Staats debut as in the Kinderchor, you know, as like a child.
Right.
No.
I still have the song there. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah. You know, and she was singing, you know, she made her debut at Gärtnerplatz in like a principal role when she was like 18 or something, like just coming out of high school. And I didn't even think, I was like, maybe I'll think. I didn't know what opera was. I pronounced Puccini, Panucci,
Panucci.
I did. I was going to audition for the chorus of Edgar in the Civic Opera of Kansas City. And I said, who's this Panucci guy, to my teacher, who was actually quite a staple at City Opera for a long time. He's like, do you mean Puccini? And I'm like, yeah, that's the one. He's like, I think you're a little young to sing Edgar. And I'm like, I think I just want to be in the chorus.
He's right.
I'm not thinking about singing Edgar.
How random, I mean, that's not done so often. I can't even believe that. I didn't know that.
I think it was because they didn't want to compete with Lyric Opera Kansas City, so they wanted to go with just, something no one would think to do. So they go with Edgar. Such a gem.
They're right about that. And it's a shame that people have been sleeping on Edgar for so long, because there's so much incredible music, even for the chorus, especially. You know what I mean? It's actually really good music. The Requiem from Edgar is what was played at Puccini's funeral. Well, it wasn't other pieces of music. It was that. You know what I mean? Specifically that Edgar funeral scene. What I mean? So they played at his funeral. I'm just like, oh my God, the music was so good. And he wrote it for a competition. So he was pulling out all the stops, for a shitty story. I'm sorry.
You got to when the story's shitty. Look at La Rondine. Oh my God.
Or have you heard the Pearl Fishers before? I mean, come on.
L'Amico Fritz exists.
It's a better story. No. Pearl Fishers is a better story than Edgar and Rondine.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
L'Amico Fritz is another one that's just so compelling.
Yeah, it's really.
You have a bad friend. Oh no! This guy's such an asshole.
Yeah. But you never found Sherry so sexy. Oh my God. Oh, L'Amico Fritz. And I mean, to think that's the same composer who wrote Cavalleria.
Yeah.
Such a bloody death opera. And then you have L'Amico Fritz is the next, most widely performed of his operas.
L'Amico Fritz is him going, I'll be there for you.
Get that money. Getting that money.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame them.
Apologies to all the Fritz fans. I know the message.
Yeah, sorry.
Shit. I mean, even a Fritz fan knows that this is merited.
Look, I know this is bullshit, but I also like the Macarena, so fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Mamba No. 5 is a great tune. Oh, man. But no, you're saying Edgar is great, and it reminds me of something my old head of the kind of music theater opera at Oklahoma City University, Dr. David Herendeen would say, and when we did Rondine, and it's, Puccini's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's good. And you can probably apply that to a few other things. That's, I think, the more PG way of saying that, but it's true. I mean, Puccini is still always wonderful. I will not feel cheap saying that.
It is still always wonderful, from Le Villi all the way through to Turandot. You know what I mean? All the way through every one of the operas. I mean, there's something to be said about the fact that he didn't have nearly as many operas as he could have in his lifetime. You know what I mean? He really took his time. And it was very smart. I mean, he really, followed in the footsteps in a big way in his predecessors as far as how much time he took to really work things out in his shows. That's when, I mean, his real genius years, of course, was, really that middle part where he had Bohème, Tosca, Butterfly, all that stuff. Even though Butterfly was a bomb, I don't think it's because of music. Well, you know what I mean?
He rewrote that thing and performed so many different versions of that. I mean, thank God for the opera comique, I say as a tenor, because, you got rid of some of the more racist Pinkerton bits from the advisement. When they brought it to the comique, they're like, hey, this whole eating bugs thing, because there is a scene where they do that. Maybe, that's not really a Japanese thing. Maybe we cut that. It's like, thank you, France. Thank you for getting
Let's just give him a weird dietary item. That'll make him seem exotic. Yeah, make him eat bugs.
Temple of Doom it.
Temple
of Doom
works.
It.
Get monkey brains. It'll be fun.
Yeah, chilled monkey brains, opening that snake, all that stuff. Oh, it's so hard to go back and watch that movie. After
no, it's like
somewhat aware of how problematic that stuff is.
All of it.
Oh my God.
Everything from the 80s, dude. Everything.
Oh my.
Just like any reference to Islam, just whatever. Just it's bananas. just like, oh, there's
And
a
I'm sure they
tire.
thought they were being so progressive and inclusive, but we're putting some of it in here, clearly, you know. Forget that we're representing it horribly.
Someone called the Sheik from the WWF. We need a central character.
Oh, Iron Sheik. He would set people on fire back in the day. The guy before the Sheik, because it was like actually a whole thing. And the guy would literally like do this thing where he would do like the fire. And the only reason I know about this is because my favorite band did an album about pro wrestling. And there's a whole thing about, fire in Chicago. I can't remember what it is. No, ridiculous stuff. And it's like, of course, yeah. Islamic wrestler, he sets people on fire. Yeah, go with it.
Exactly. I mean, what else could he do?
All the subtlety of pro wrestling.
Oh, I miss it though.
Oh, pro wrestling. And I had a friend who did a ring cycle like adaptation in Hamburg that was done like quasi pro wrestling style, where like they're coming into the ring as the gods. Here's Photon Y-wing in at 325 pounds. Photon King of the Gods. Wonder.
Let's get ready to cycle.
Some stuff like that.
That
Way too
sounds
high,
awesome.
obviously.
Now, I do hate to admit it, but we're proving so many opera stereotypes right now. It's just like
Guys, stereotypes for a reason.
It's all true. It's all true. We just sit around and talk about nerdy stuff.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, yes, stereotypes really are stereotypes for a reason. They're based in some sort of truth, right?
Yeah.
And in this case,
that's a phenomenon in our business that I've always bothered me, is that a lot of times you'll get with a group of people and you want to talk about craft, and I'm not talking about shop. I mean, I'm not talking about politics and gossip. I know people like to do that, but I do like to do what we're doing now and talk a little bit about just the craft. And the thing that always bothered me is when you get to a group with people and there's sometimes there's this eye roll, here we are, everyone's talking about how they do things, and it's like, for me, like it's one of the most interesting things because we're all trying to do the same thing. We all have a little bit of different approach, and whenever I sit around and talk to people, I pick up things, and I'm not trying to chop heads or nothing, but I'm trying to oh, that's a great idea. It's an interesting way. It's a different way of thinking about things. And I think it's kind of an unfortunate thing that so many people kind of get, oh, here we go again with the opera talk. Man, it's what we do for a living. It's our craft. What do you think woodworkers get to talk about when they get together?
Also, I mean, it's something we do that we love. We love it so much, and it's something that you have to sacrifice a lot of tenets of a normal life. Being on the road, obviously not now. Being on the road so often, I've really got possessions. It's not a thing I do.
Yeah.
But so it is. Yeah, it's what I want to talk about because it's something I adore so much, to give up so much of the regular trappings of life to do this. And you're right. I mean, I was actually, you said you pick up so many things. One of the most, it still sticks with me today when you were talking about Glory Denied and talking about your experiences in Glory Denied, and you really got into this is why we do this, and why are you singing? What are you singing for? Is it for self-gratification? No, it's about to tell people something. And that really stuck with me. I remember it was this big aha moment. And I think because you get so into the business and, I got to do this and this and this and this and get this job and do this. And you really lose sight about you're doing this to move people, to say something that is impactful, even Lamiko Fritz.
Well, I feel like it's harder for because what we do is so specialized, and it does require such a high level of praxis, in order to make it work, right? Rob, I don't know if you grew up playing any other kind of music. Latonia and I were talking earlier when your computer shat the bed about when you being another kind of musician, and Latonia had all this jazz experience and all this stuff, and for me, when I was doing country and bluegrass music, there's a much more sort of instant intimacy with the audience, that I missed when I got into all this stuff, and that little magical thing that you get when you're singing for your church. You're singing and you're singing to save souls, or you're singing some country song that your grandmother loves, or your aunt loves, or or somebody out there, you see them having this emotional reaction because they're so familiar with it. It's that little magical thing that when I got into opera in college, and then sort of navigating through all of the stuff that you have to carry with you. You've got to carry your language book and your craft book and your voice lesson book and your coaching book. I mean, these are metaphors, of course. And it gets so heavy, and you stop thinking about that one little thing that happens, that little conduit, that little pipeline that you have to your audience. You're so worried about all this other stuff, you forget about this thing. And that's the thing I think that I like to talk about, is that sort of that moment that we have that I missed, and that took me so many years to find again with opera, is that magical connection with the audience where it's like, bam, I got them, you know, boom.
I guess, I mean, the hard thing is you always have to make sure that all of those things that you carry with you and all the things it takes to get there, you know, once you hit the stage, you almost have to stop thinking.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to think about now. All that stuff's been done. Let your body just do it. Throw yourself into what's happening. The end. Because if you're able to do that, you know, then all of that stuff that you had before, it's like it never even happened. It's like you always came out the box natural like that, able to do it like it was second nature because you did all the work back there. Leave the work back there. The worst thing anybody could possibly do is get on the stage and try to fix something and try to change something.
Oh my God.
This opening night's not the time to experiment.
Maybe I'll try this.
Not.
I had a terrible experience with everything. Very much so. In this time, I've been really working on, you know, technical things, and then I had to get up on stage for the first time in, you know, forever, and I hadn't settled back into, like, you know, just being able to do it. And I found myself out there trying to think about, like, how to sing high notes when I was singing high notes, because I've been messing with them so much. And, you know, I at least finally did well in the performance because I was able to I was like, just do it. And it was actually also so beneficial to push through, because I was super nervous about doing it after so long, you know, sitting around resting, even though I've been working hard on my voice. And it was just, there was the huge benefit of also just doing the things and letting your body take over and do the thing that you know how to do. I actually started thinking about it in terms of dharma, you know, which we really don't have. It's a loan word, you know, we really don't have an appropriate word in English for dharma, but a lot of ways to think about it is kind of your duty, your place in the universe. And not to get like, obviously this is my place in the universe, but it's what I do. It's where I feel comfortable, like being in front of a whole bunch of people, but I really do feel comfortable there. Mm-hmm. It's what I like to do. And instead of thinking about it as something to emotionally gratify yourself, and I think this goes more into my thoughts about taking it from the idea of dharma in a Buddhistic way, you know, not looking for some emotional gratification or experiential gratification, which I kind of lost sight of. I talked about not having a connection to objects because of this sort of spiritual thirst that it brings you in time. But it's also an attachment to those experiences. And when I thought about it in terms of, this is what I do, it is my place. I'm not looking for glory. I'm not looking for anything other than being where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And I think there can be a lot of power in thinking of it like that. I know that's a kind of an odd concept that I had, you know, one of those 3 a.m. ideas, like, oh, let's connect opera with the idea of, you know, classical, you know, dharma. From like,
we actually talked about this in Des Moines, Rob, about how for me, and I think for people that sort of share that, my philosophy about the stage and theater and stuff, is that life is hard. Opera is easy. Life is hard.
Yeah.
The stage, when I'm on the opera stage or when I'm in the rehearsal room, I know exactly how that goes.
Yes.
I know there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. I know what happens to my character. It is the time in my life when I feel the most at peace and at ease. I mean, it seems crazy to people, but standing up there, it's way safer than
it's a release.
Sitting in that audience chair. It's way easier for us than it is for them.
Latonia's right. It's so much of it. You were talking about the emotional connection, and if anything, actually, for me, I'm clearly a very out loud. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm an open book. We talked about this. for better or for worse, but it's just how I am. And I felt that like opera was actually the right step instead of towards like away from intimacy. It was because it was so much I could just give, and then also music. And I've always had this, you know, not to toot my horn or anything, but I've always had an ability to send emotion through music and the sound of my voice. It's something just, I don't know. It's
you definitely have that ability. That's the kind of vocalist you are. That's the way. I think that's the only way you can do it.
But look who's talking. I mean, you know, that's you emote so much through music. I think that was another level we connected on so intensely, is because, you know, we felt through this music, and it becomes such an amazing and encompassing experience. And it was so cool. I had such a cool period of time. I did 3 productions in a row there where I had experiences like that. I did this Carmen, Ginger Costa Jackson, and she's just an amazing person to work with. And I mean, she's one of those people that I saw different dimensions to a character that can become such a stereotype. And we both had like so much to give and so much to throw into it. And then I worked with you, Latonia, on that Tosca. And then we had so much to give and to communicate on stage, so we had to have them say, hey, could you you know, maybe turn out a little bit instead of just singing in each other's faces the entire time.
It was really crazy.
Oh yeah, but no, it was amazing. And then I went to Des Moines right after and worked with Mike and Corey and Zach and Sarah and Christine McIntyre. I mean, such an amazing group. I mean, it was incredible. The fact that we brought Votsek to people in Iowa, and they loved it.
They loved it.
Oh my God, that's mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing in itself.
Well, when you have Mike
to Iowa.
When you have Mike out, no, I'm serious, dude.
Or Ben.
I literally had to not listen to you when you were doing your bits during the schlaf scene with the ooh.
Yeah.
When you were going ooh, and it's like I would break my heart because I had to come in and be like, you know, up yours, I'm gonna kick your ass right afterwards, and I'm like starting to tear up because I could hear every inch of pain in everything you could sum up in those things. Andres, ich kann nicht schlafen. And it's just it's still, I can hear your voice. That's what I hear when I listen to Votsek or think about it, because it was just, I mean, talk about like such an amazing marriage of person and role to do that right. And I'm not just trying to blow smoke up your ass here, man. It was just one of those amazing experiences to be a part of.
I wanted to ask Latonia because she said something early on in this conversation that kind of went boop, little thing in my brain about you being able to communicate emotion through your voice. Yes. And for me, that's a thing that I always tried to reverse engineer when I was younger. Going through all these coachings and stuff, and they would say, oh, well, you need this color or that color or this color or that color to use. Like I'm trying to pull these. And right about my mid-30s, what I realized is, oh, it was really funny. If you just experience the emotion and then sing, guess what happens? You find the color. Oh, I'll be damned. All I had to do was just experience an emotion and sing through it, because every emotion you have is right there. Like, you know, you can tell when they're talking, if they're pissed off, if they're happy, even if they're trying to conceal it.
That's a beautiful way to think of it, man.
And so if you get choked up, you say, I got choked up. That's what that sounds like. Mm-hmm. And if we're constantly trying to remove the choked upness out of the sound so we can make this pretty little nice sound, instead of being like, oh, wait, that's part of it. That's part of the color.
Yeah. I agree. I think so many times people, look, I mean, I could especially speak for sopranos. You know, think about lining up the voice, and when you get into this part of your voice, you know, it has to have a certain sound, and you know, have to just make sure that it's always sounding beautiful and lined up. See, this is incorrect. If you want to sing like that, then please go sing a concert piece, you know, or go sing some oratorio or something that's more about just, you know, a certain sound communicating this Holy Spirit, right? Opera is completely different. You know what I mean? You go through a million emotions in an opera because you're a real person, a real character. You're not just in church doing worship. And I mean, your character sometimes calls for that. But even so, if you're writing an opera about it, it's because it's drama. It is soap opera. You know, the only way you are going to be able to communicate emotion, regardless of what language you're speaking in the opera or singing, what language you're singing in, the only way you're going to be able to communicate it is if you somehow feel the emotion yourself.
Yeah.
If you cannot, then it is just you singing word to word and notes on a page. And you've brought nothing to life. You have wasted my time. Bye.
It's like
You know what I
emotional
mean?
emotional
It's a waste of
karaoke.
time.
Well,
It's
definitely.
emotional karaoke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, but I feel like, you know, if you're doing a role, I mean, I feel like the most expressive of roles is Madame Butterfly, because you're watching a person that's so young, you know, and so vulnerable with emotions and goes through all of them right in front of you. She's like, I'm mad and I'm strong, but I'm totally weak, and I don't know, I'm obsessed, and all of these things. You know, there's so many things you can do to play, you know, with a role just by feeling just like that person would feel.
Yeah.
You know, it is simply put, all you have to do is put yourself in that person's shoes and allow your body and your voice to feel it. But people don't like that because it's not always pretty, you know, and it's not always perfect, you know. And for those companies that hire based on someone always sounding perfect, you'll notice that those companies don't get, you know, nearly as much traction as people who are, you know, getting the heart on the sleeves people. Those are the audiences that are really being affected.
Yeah.
You know, you know, the opera goer, that the opera audience member that goes in and they go like this all the time and go, well, this wasn't perfect and that wasn't perfect. They're about to die off, and that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They're leaving. Okay. And so now we have a world of people that needs to be emotionally fed again. You know, maybe 60 years ago it was like that.
Especially now.
Yes. And so that's it. You know, if people are going to go to the theater now you better bring something more than the stereotypical, I'm going to sit here and bark. You know, we're
Sounds
very,
like
very sick
opera.
of it. You know what I mean? And opera is not that at all. It's something that even, I mean, my children are young, right? They're 5 and 3 years old. When they were watching, they should not have watched this, I guess. You know what I mean? They are a bit young, but when I did Porgy and Bess and they showed it on PBS this past summer, I let them watch it. Okay. And so they were watching me on it, and tears are streaming down their face. Like, Mama, why are you so sad like that? Why are you up there doing? Why is it like that? You know. Now, if I was up
it's a
there,
longer story, kids. It's a longer story. We got a lot. Got a lot to tell you.
They've seen clips of me singing arias or things like that. You know what I mean? With a completely different feeling. They've seen a clip of me singing Un Bel Dì, and their reaction is like, "Oh my God, it's such a sweet, like a little girl." That's exactly what she is, baby. She's young. You know what I mean? This one, oh my God, that lady, like, you know, what's wrong with her? That old lady, you know what I mean? Like, is that you, Mama? Is that you really crying like that? Why are you crying? I'm like, I'm not crying. They're like, you know, they were so emotional. You know, they also saw, which, you know, my husband should have never played for them, a trailer of the last production I did before we hit the pandemic and closing down everything, was a production of Tosca in Rouen. And there was this big trailer for it, you know, and they see me, you know, kissing somebody in the trailer. They see me mad and screaming and hitting people in the trailer. And they're like, oh, we don't like to see you like that, Mom. Oh my God, it's so scary. Now, it could be just that it was the character and I was doing what I was supposed to do as the character, but it wasn't that at all. It was a complete departure from, you know, Mama that they know. You know what I mean? This is Mama. You know, that was Serena and Cho-Cho-san and Tosca. You know what I mean? Like, those are completely different people. And that their reaction is indicated that I obviously took myself somewhere else. You know, that I was able to pull out something else in my person to portray this character. Another thing I'll say about becoming characters is sometimes it gets hard to sleep. I remember this was way back in 2002 when I was still in school, and I was Lucrezia Borgia, right? And I was having dreams about murdering Jesus. You know, Jesus Garcia is my best friend. I mean, I don't know. But I was having dreams that I was murdering him, like that I would poison him, that I made him something to eat and I poisoned him. I mean, it was so intense. I was really going through the emotions of this person that would just fly off the handle and murder people.
What a person to play. What a character to play, too. It was like so much.
I dreamt I was
baggage
murdering
to
Jesus. I love it.
I did. I had that dream that I cooked him something and
How are your eggs?
yeah, well, I mean, but
I can see you
Y'all ever
diving
get
so
that?
deep into that role, and that can be a lot to put on you to be a. I mean, because this is a real person, Lucrezia Borgia, with a a lot of baggage to impact with a person,
Yes.
just talk about Cesare or let's talk about Rodrigo, and your relationships with your dad and just to get in those spaces of playing those type of characters. Yeah, it's got to be very a lot.
Oh, and also I have to say, about something like Madame Butterfly, I did have a very, different feeling after I had children trying to do the end of the opera or just
Oh,
going on. But let me tell you, the very first time I did Madame Butterfly was in Palm Beach. I'm in Miami now, so not too far from here. Palm Beach Opera in 2007. And the conductor was Bruno Aprea, and he had a young 2.5-year-old son at the time. I had never seen this little boy, and he said, "Look, my son is going to come in here." He said, "We're going to do Act 3." We started rehearsal with the suicide aria, right? I said, "Oh my God!" And it was 10:30 in the morning, and I said, "Okay, I'm not that warmed up." He said, "It doesn't matter. Sing it anyway." He said, "I'm going to send my son in. He's 2.5 years old. He's an Italian little boy. Okay." This boy comes running toward me. They start the music. I was stunned. In the opera, the little boy has, little blue eyes and curly blonde hair. That's exactly what this child was. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he was the epitome of dolore. He was trouble, the little child, sorrow, comes running at me. And I could not sing the aria. My voice was breaking. I was cracking all over the place because I just couldn't. I could not hold back the emotion, seeing the real thing in my hands and singing to him like that. And Maestro would not stop. Oh. He said, and I said, "Please stop," in the middle. And he said, No.
Go.
Bye. And so we kept going, and I struggled to the end of that aria. Guarda bene amore. I was dead. Okay. So I said, "Va, gioca." He went running out. Everybody was clapping. They were like, "Oh my goodness, this is exactly what it takes. This is what you need to do." You know what I mean? And I thought I was doing that, but I definitely had never experienced my own child or even having the child yet, because this was my debut. We hadn't done the rehearsal with the child. You know what I mean? And so to see one that looked exactly like what's in the story on those pages right in front of me, it changed me, and I've taken it with me for as long as I've sung the role. And then after I had children, of course, got a little harder even, but what it did do was bring out a lot more in the role that I wouldn't have been able to do before. That's the thing, Mike. It goes back to you saying, when you were with coaches, you know what I mean? And they always say, choose this color, choose that color, do that, blah, 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 blah. It's because they don't trust that you have the life experience to be able to figure that out yet. Mm-hmm. And, there's some truth to it. Because I could only go so far coloring Act 2 of Madame Butterfly. Act 1 of Butterfly, I can sing and experience all day long. Children aside, doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Because this is like a girl who's getting married as a teenager to a hot American. He's got money, he's got stature, he's tall and he's hot, and all of y'all are jealous of me, and it's her wedding day, and oh my God, I can do that all day. But when I got to see, but there's a big thing that happens to her in 3 years of being a single mom. You know what I mean? With a baby that people don't know about. You know what I mean? It's only 3 years, but it ages her in a certain way where, I didn't understand that before. I was still singing it like she was an 18-year-old and getting so caught up in the numbers and her being 15 to 18 years old, but it has nothing to do with that. She's become weary. She, toward the end of Act 2, when she thinks he's coming back, for her and all this stuff, she looks in the mirror. Non so più bella. I'm no longer beautiful. Troppo sospiri la bocca mandò. Because I've cried too many times and I've put all these wrinkles everywhere now. I can see how much I've cried. Look at how old I look. I've aged 10 years.
And that really is it, right? That's the thing. People say you should sound young. You should sound young. Man, she lived more life in her life than most people live there in those short 20 or 16, 15, 14, 18 years. Than most people live their whole life. Their whole life.
whole history with their father and everything. There's again, like you said, people grew up faster in different eras. We live in a very gentle world compared to, I mean, it doesn't feel like that sometimes, especially, especially given, 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah, people live very, very different lives. And,
very different lives. I mean, everybody had children so much younger.
Mm-hmm.
All girls, they were always having it, late teens, early 20s. That's when the children were happening.
Dude, my great grandmother got married at 12.
I don't doubt it. Cut and shoot.
Cut and shoot.
Also, my great grandmother, I think she was about 13 or 14. My dad's mom was 15 when she got married and had him.
You have to get to making farm hands as soon as possible.
Pretty much. I mean, gosh, even my grandparents on my mother's side, I mean, they're old Texas folk, but I mean, they were kind of, more society Texas folk. And
this accent he's using, I don't know what that is.
I don't know. I just started to kind of get into half the line, and
Blanche Dubois came in. These here Texas folk down here.
Oh, I've always depended on
Beauregard.
But attempting in front of two Texans to do this is just.
Listen,
but you know what's wrong with? I mean, here's the story: is that for as long as I remember, if you got a summer job, you were pretty lucky, because there's fewer jobs in the summer. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just fewer jobs, and so a lot of singers sort of have to take the summer off. What if we just moved that time where the job scarcity was so much, just take that and put it on like November, December, and January instead of June, July, and August, because that's when it's going to be be
seasonal depression. That's why. No, that's smart.
Yeah.
But to what you all were saying about the idea of it's so awesome what you're doing in Atlanta. I thought that was such an amazing idea to be able to just give some people some form of stability, which I definitely, we are taking for granted over here in Germany. And it's amazing. But I mean, I would give so much. I mean, I don't care. I would go back to Kansas City, do some operas back home, be there for my community, be what I love, and I mean, it's actually been a hard theater for me to even try to break into. I was lucky enough to get to sing with the symphony while Stern was there, who I admired always growing up, and getting to work with him was a dream come true. Thank you, David Stern, who helped me out with that. But I mean, it meant so much to be there with my community, to be there with the people in the corps in the Beethoven 9 were my high school teachers, and it was incredible. And I would give so much. I would take far less than I do. Go home, spend time with my parents I haven't seen in a year and a half. With those people.
You sung in Houston, right, Latonia?
Oh yeah. Well,
what was that like? Wasn't that great the first time you did that?
Look, wait, what? Did you ask me
if I sang in Houston? So what? Yeah, you sang in Houston, right? At the HGA?
No.
Or anywhere?
No, I have not. All the things that I sang in Houston were all jazz things.
Oh, really?
I did I did lots of jazz performing, but as far as singing at the Houston Grand Opera, never.
No.
I've never sung there. I've never been asked to sing there. And I remember years back, my agent inquiring about it, and they were just like, why would we hire her when we have people in our studio and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but I mean, for nothing. No, I've never sung in Houston. And it's been a really hard thing for me, because I remember my mom saying years ago, she was just like, yeah, one day you'll make it, when you sing in Houston, you know what I mean? You're going to sing in Houston, when you going to sing in Houston? I'm like, you're at my Carnegie Hall recital right now. You're asking me when I'm going to sing in Houston. This is not right. Not to say that Carnegie Hall is better than the Houston Grand Opera, but I'm just like, come on. This is at least reputable enough that you would give me some credit for doing something in this business, mama.
At least reputable
but for
enough.
her, it was about Houston. For her, the Metropolitan Opera,
who cares?
She's like, are you going to sing in Houston? You know what I mean? When are you going to come down here and sing at this opera company? So, if anybody in Houston is listening, I mean, this is way overdue. Come on.
I mean,
now I feel like it's not right for someone who's been born and bred and who's sung for 20 years around the world. This is craziness.
Bring our
You
singers.
know what
Let's. I mean, I think as just an entreaty to every company in America, but especially regional companies, bring your singers home.
Yes, bring
Bring
your
your singers
singers
home.
home.
Because
I mean,
their families will pay you back.
yes.
They will.
Yeah. It means something. And especially in this time when we're so disconnected, to be able to sew some sort of web of community back,
Yeah.
it means a lot. I mean, and I think that's also something that America is sorely needing in so many ways. And if we could contribute to bringing people back together to make them really understand, I mean, you know, especially being from Kansas City, like the last couple of years with the Chiefs, I mean, I'm overseas and I feel it. And it's special because we're small. We're a small town. We're not huge, but it means something. It means a lot. And Kansas City has a lot of pride in and of itself. We have, like, when something's local product, you know, we have our main little local coffee brand. But man, everywhere has it. We have our local dairy that's like fancy. Everybody has it. Local this, I mean, the local brewery. It's everywhere. It's got
the third best barbecue in the country. I mean, it's like,
those are fight and words. No. You need to go to LC and get yourself some burn ends. Oh, or to Gates, the original location up on the east side. Get some burn ends on bun. Burn ends on a bun. Oh my God, it will bring you to God. It will bring you to God.
Get out of here. Texas barbecue all the way.
I'm
sauce.
not dissing Texas barbecue. Okay, first of all, you know, that's cool that you guys don't want to go with sauce, but having the option of sauce that tastes good is also nice. And then, you know, and I guess the whole thing is just like, you know, I get you want to have confidence in your meat, but literally creating a garbage sauce just to prove that is, you know, that's no way to do it. I'm just saying, Gates original barbecue sauce, bar none on Sauce Land. But I'll give you, I mean, I've never had better brisket than when I was singing in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I hadn't got down to Austin, unfortunately, to try out some Franklin's. And I really wanted to, but that line was just too long, and I had to get.
Well, I guess it's just time for us to do a Tosca.
I just got a gig in Austin in the spring, actually. I'm singing Tosca at Austin Opera.
I had to pass on that. I had literally had to pass on it. I
was fixing to say there needs to be a Tosca for the three of us, for fuck's sake. Why isn't there a Tosca for the three of us?
We could only sing every 2 weeks because we'd all emote so much that we'd be voiceless by the end of it.
It's funny, you know, let me say something, and this is, you know, pre-pandemic, you know, I, like most opera singers, you know, you get to a certain level and you start thinking, you know, I want to sing at this level of companies because this is the level of my career. And that's what your manager usually advises, you know. But now we're in the pandemic, you know, I definitely look at things a lot differently. I'm just like, I want to sing, I want the work, and I want to go do it. Now, an exception is this. Even pre-pandemic, if I were to get something anywhere in Texas, I always take it. Just because it's in Texas, just because that's my home. It's where I was born and raised. I went to school there. You know, almost all of my family is still there, all over Texas. You know, so even if it was years ago, I mean, and somebody offered me something at a smaller company in Texas, you know, I'm just like, I'm there. I am there. This is home. You know, it's not about the money when it comes to Texas specifically. And I think that probably for a lot of people, I would hope that they think, you know, it's more about singing at home. When you're from a specific place, you're at home. This is what you know. This is what it's an honor to be able to, you know, be, you know, presenting for your community, to go in and, you know, and shine for everybody.
See what I've been doing for 25 years?
Yeah.
I know you thought I was crazy back then when I decided to do that, but I've been doing this for 25 years in Europe.
I'm not just lying. I'm not just lying.
Bringing it back home.
It's 5 o'clock here in Munich, and by law, I have to drink a Helles, you know, between 5 and 6, or else I get kicked out.
We don't want you to get kicked out of Germany. So.
No, I don't. I don't want to get kicked out of Deutschland.
Germany.
Guys,
thank you guys
really
so much. This was fantastic. It's always, these talks are always buoy me up in these times, but this one was really special. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yes,
thank you.
So good to see y'all. It really, really is. I mean, it's always great to see you, Robert. And
likewise.
Yes, and Mike, I mean, it's just been so long, and I mean, we got to hit this stage together. I mean,
we need to sing together sometime.
Well, look, I
Everyone
mean,
listening,
my
Boston.
dream is to do Dead Man Walking with you. Our characters don't have nearly as much interaction as I need them to. So let's find something really great where we can really sink our teeth into each other and, you know, and do our thing. Yes. Anyway, such a pleasure, gentlemen.